1,500 miles in 100 days. In October of last year, after recently dropping out of school, I decided that I wanted to attempt an ultramarathon. Now you might be asking yourself, what is an ultramarathon? The regular marathon distance is 26.2 miles or 42 kilometers. An ultramarathon is anything above that marathon distance, typically starting at 50k and going up to 100 miles, even more sometimes for certain races. At that time, I was only running about 60 to 70 miles each week. I knew that if I wanted to complete the ultra, I had to up my training volume. Sometime at the beginning of November, I told myself that not only did I want to complete the ultra, but I wanted to be competitive amongst the top runners. So each week, I increased my mileage and the amount of vertical gain in my runs, until I was running about 100 miles per week. In that peak period, I ran 1,500 miles in just 100 days. That's like running from LA to San Francisco, and then doing it again, and then again, and again, once more, just for fun. Or, for those of you who like math, my average pace was probably around 7 minutes per mile, which would equal 10,500 minutes of running, or 630,000 seconds of time spent putting one foot in front of the other in just 100 days' time. So after running all those miles, I thought I'd give you the 5 major takeaways that I learned from the 1,500 in 100 days. So the first one might seem kind of obvious, but it's that you're always tired and you're always sore. I remember when I was running a lot less mileage, maybe 5, 6, 7 miles a day, those runs would rejuvenate me, kind of give me energy, get my day going, make me super productive. But when you're running 15, 20, sometimes 25 miles a day, you are always sore, you are always tired. And you know what? Your body gets used to it, but that doesn't mean the soreness or the tiredness really goes away. I remember finishing my runs and I would eat and I would just be lounging around the house and I would not want to do anything after at all. The second major takeaway I had is that the little things become the big things. I was doing so many extra things as far as hip exercises, core work, strength work, rolling out, icing, recovery, that it took as much time as I was running to do those other things. And when you're running so many miles every single day, you want to make sure that the time you are running, you feel good as you possibly can. The third thing I learned, which was probably the hardest one to learn of all of them, was that food becomes work and a chore. I love food, I love eating, I've always had a huge appetite, but there were a lot of days, and I mean a lot of days, where I would finish a 15, 20 mile run and I would literally not have any appetite. I would not want to eat, or I would literally just forget to eat. I would get home and it would completely slip my mind. But when you're running a ton, you absolutely need calories and you need good food and nutrition consistently every single day, because when you're burning 5,000 calories at least per day and you're only eating 3,000 or so, I weighed between 120 and 122 really when I was doing most of my ultra training, so I really was not trying to lose any more weight at all. There were days when it was just really hard to eat, and I really had to learn how to just force myself at times to get down food, because I knew if I didn't eat, then I would feel so crappy the next day on my run. The fourth thing I learned is that for those 5 or 6 months, I really did not have much of a social life. Besides my 2 roommates, I had maybe 3 or 4 friends that I would see once, maybe twice a month throughout those 6 months. I would just be running or working or sleeping or eating, and besides that, I didn't really leave the house too much. And when I did get the chance to hang out with my friends, we didn't go do crazy stuff. It was more like we'd go get some dinner, talk for maybe an hour or 2, and then I'd go home so I could go to sleep, wake up the next day, and run. This was honestly one of the hardest parts for me. I absolutely love my friends. I'm a very outgoing person. I love hanging out, meeting new people, being out in the world doing things. So throughout those 6 months, it was really, really hard for me to kind of put all of that aside and make training my absolute priority every single day. And number 5, which is definitely one of the most important, is that the payoff was totally worth it. Every single day, I would have so many ups and downs before my runs, on my runs, after my runs, where I would question myself. Why was I doing this? What was I trying to prove? All sorts of questions that were running through my head at all times, and there were so many highs and lows throughout the 6 months. But when I finally crossed that finish line in Black Canyon, Arizona, in 11th place overall, there was nothing sweeter than that in the entire world. That was one of the best feelings of my life, and I will never ever forget the feeling that is. I remember crossing the finish line and I was so dead freaking tired. I barely could walk, and I thought to myself, what have I done? I am never going to do one of those ever again. And it was probably 12 to 16 hours before I said, all right, I need to get there again. The feeling I had of completing that ultramarathon was one of the greatest feelings ever, and I knew that once I had that feeling, I knew I wanted to get there again. Anyways, guys, that's the video for today. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you want to see next down in the comments, and I'll also link my Strava down below so you can check out the runs I'm doing right now to train for my next ultramarathon. But until then, be good humans, do good things, search for happiness. Peace.
We gon' get this paper.
With that on my mom.
You gon' see us later.
With that on my mom.